Everyone, it's Sally Hislop here from Dun Catchment Rivers Trust, and today we're going to be looking at grasses in your garden. So if you've been taking part in No Mow May, you should have a lovely meadow growing in your garden now, which might look a bit like this. And when grasses are in flower, it means you can actually have a look and see what species you've got. So let's give it a go. Grasses vary really widely in shape, and you can see this just here in my garden. Some will form simple spike structures at the top, whereas others have more branch structures, which we call a loose panicle. All grasses have spikelets, which are basically just small flowers, and sometimes we can see these flowering. So you can see these lovely purple stamens here of this flowering grass. All grasses have hollow stems. Another thing you can look at for identification is where the leaf joins the stem, called the ligule. Just in there. If you pull back the leaf, you'll be able to see it. So one of the species of grass in my garden is called Timothy, or Flea and Pretense. It's got these lovely purple stamens that you can see, and it's flowering here, which is quite early for this species. And you can see that it has, especially from the picture, when you look at its spikelets, they're kind of horned looking. Got this other little species here. This one's really soft to touch. And I think it might be maybe smaller cat's tail, so quite closely related to the Timothy we saw earlier. But it's just much smaller in shape, and it's also not flowering. And I think that leaf might be quite distinctive high up there. We also have cocksfoot, Dactylus glomerata, which you can see here. This is quite a rigid species, and I think it's called cocksfoot because it actually looks a little bit like a chicken's foot. Maybe a little bit. This one's not flowering yet. And you can see that those spikelets are kind of densely bunched up into clusters. That's very distinctive of this grass. And I think here we might have a species of foxtail. Looks very similar to the Timothy or the cat's tails that we saw earlier. And again, it's a really nice softer touch grass, this. It's got a single spike, with all its spikelets quite neatly arranged. But the difference is when you look at those spikelets really closely, you can see here that instead of the outside of the flower having these two awns or spikes coming out of it, it's actually the inside of the flower that has these sort of twiddly bits coming from it. So it's got a slightly different looking flower in this group. So yeah, I think this is a foxtail. So there's a really lovely little meadow grass here, and you can see how its inflorescence is really different to those simple spike-like grasses we saw earlier. This is a very loose spreading panicle. And you can actually see some cuckoo spit there, which means that a froghopper has laid some eggs in there potentially, which is exciting. So you see cuckoo spit from around May onwards. And I think one thing you really notice when you start looking at different grass species is the colours. So the cocksfoot looks really purplish here, and you'll see that as they flower, they offer different colours as well. Once you get your eye, and you'll start seeing all these lovely colours pop out. So we've found quite a few different species of grasses in my little patch of grassland, which has been left to its own devices for No Mow May. If you have done the No Mow May challenge, definitely get out there and have a little look what you can see before you get the mower out.